Hello, my name is M. Jason Graham, and this is Writing. This is Writing is brought to you by mjgstorycreation.com. Go to mjgstorycreation.com and get helpful hints on turning your idea into an epic story today. So this week is all about the campaigns, and if you tuned into in under 5 minutes, you would have seen what a campaign grid looks like and made the association for code, which is our grid for the adventure. So capacity, opportunity, downfall, and evolution. So now we're going to go over the campaign worksheet, which is something that I suggest that you work out before you even write your first story. It's very important that you know where you're going in your trajectory. And there are a lot, and we've seen them, a lot of great movies that have a great characters, great fun, great writing, and it's great. But then Hollywood tries to capitalize on that greatness and bring a sequel, and 9 times out of 10 the sequel falls flat, and it's because there was no sequel planned when the initial writing happened. So let's take a look at what's necessary. And we talked about this before, but now I'm going to give you an example of what you need to do in order to make sure that happens for you. So you want to give your campaign a name, which is very basic. If you think about it, think about George Lucas in Star Wars. Whether it was Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith or The Empire Strikes Back, the name of the campaign is always Star Wars. Then also you want to put in your guiding principles. And we do this because we need to remind ourselves of why we're writing the story. Everything flows from those guiding principles all the way up through here. Next is the name of the protagonist. Why the protagonist? Because they need to be pursuing something long term. Even though campaigns are about a group, you're still going to have one central character that everything flows around, that they're doing really the heavy lifting. But the thing is that you're going to also have the foils that are doing a lot of lifting as well. But the protagonist and the protagonist's life ambition. So we go back to the credible life plan and we pull the life ambition. So all of this stuff that we've done, we pull it forward. The story unit really is what format you're telling the story. How large are the bite size that you're giving your audience. In this particular case, I'm using a film, so the story unit would be adventure here. Now we come down to the actual campaign portion. And if you recall from it, with a campaign, you need ambition, area of consequence, and emotional transition. All of these need to progress and become larger as the story goes on. So when we're looking at all 4 movies, we can see that the emotional transition starts from hopeful and goes all the way up to fulfilled, which makes sense. During the course of a story, the hero should know who he or she is, and be comfortable where they're at by the end of a campaign, because we're talking a real deep character self-assessment at this point. So for each one of the films, we also have what we talked about for our campaign grid. We've got code, capacity, opportunity, downfall, and evolution. So now we're going to tell this story, and it's the story of the son of a police officer who was gunned down in the line of duty. And so now his ambition needs to match. So let's look at ambition and area of consequence. His ambition in the first movie is to graduate the police academy. So maybe he has people telling him, or maybe his mother doesn't want him to be an officer because her husband died that way, and she knew what kind of toll that would take on his life. So we've got tension there already. The area of consequence, for the most part, is going to be personal. So it's small. If he fails, then it's a failure on his part, but that failure really doesn't impact anyone else. And then, of course, because he succeeds, I've decided that he succeeds, he goes from being hopeful to being confident. So that's the first arc, showing his capacity to become a police officer like his father was before him. Next, opportunity. And when we look at opportunity, he gets a chance to not only solve a case, but to solve his father's cold case. So to solve a case that his father didn't solve. And so maybe we look at the area of consequence, and now it's the neighborhood where he grew up. Maybe he needs to be able to solve this cold case in order to get the neighborhood to trust police officers again. From here, he goes from being sensible to euphoric. So again, this is another win at the major conjunction. He's able to solve the case, and he's at this point a better officer, a better cop than his father was. So he's euphoric, which means he's in La La Land. This is more than he's dreamed of. So now we go to the downfall. Emotionally, things change. So maybe he's euphoric, so that causes him to become a little bit more lax, to take a few more liberties, because he knows what he's doing, and he gets a little too cocky about things. So now he needs to find and arrest a serial killer. That's the ambition in the third film. The area of consequence is the east side, the entire east side. So maybe people are being murdered on the east side, and since he's such a hotshot police detective, now everybody's breathing down his neck to solve it. So here he goes, during the course of it, he goes from being reckless to atoning. Or you could say that he's apologetic. He apologizes for the way, because remember, downfall is where the character's hubris comes in, their pride comes in, and it separates them from their communities that have been supporting him in the first two movies. So by the end of that time, he wants to atone for it, and just in time to kind of gather the communities again for film number 4, in his bid to become chief of police. This time the area of consequence is the city. So with every single movie, the area of consequence is larger. Here, he goes from obsessive to being fulfilled. So whether or not he actually becomes chief of police, by the end of the movie, he has a firm understanding of who he is and what his place is in the universe. And he's comfortable with that. So, you can see everything grows, everything expands. When you look at Harry Potter, for instance, I didn't read the books, but I saw most of the movies, and they did a great job. And that was 8 movies. And if you go through all the movies again, you'll see this pattern, pretty much this pattern for it. So that's what you need to do in order to make sure that every story has a fair chance of being tight. Of course, there's going to be changes when you're actually executing the story and writing the script, but you're writing a series, and that's the important part. My name is M. Jason Graham, and this is Writing. This is Writing has been brought to you by mjgstorycreation.com. Go to mjgstorycreation.com and get started on turning your idea into an epic story today. I'll see you next time.